My background, well, I can trace it all. Actually, I can blame the whole thing on my mother because she was a big fan she grew up, but she was a teen in the 50s, big fan of music and dancing, and she was in particular a big Elvis fan. So I was exposed to the king of rock and roll very early on in my childhood, and I got to admit, I have a little bit of affection for Mr. Swivelhips myself, and so that's when that's how I guess my early exposure to music was through my mom, and I started piddling and playing the guitar and singing along, kind of like my own little version of karaoke back then, just singing along with vinyl records. Does anybody remember vinyl? And then I remembered, around in 5th grade, I was at this family function, and everybody was like singing along to these different records, and they started playing Elvis songs. And someone said, "Hey, Bob knows how to sing along with Elvis or whatever." And I was just a kid, and I don't think anybody thought that I'd really even know the lyrics or anything. But I got up and started singing along, and then people started cheering, and that got me kind of fired up. And before I knew it, I was swiveling my hips and doing Hound Dog or Jailhouse Rock or whatever. And at the end of the song, the whole room like exploded in the applause. And the light bulb went off, and I thought to myself, wow, there's something to this music and performance thing. That memory didn't leave me. I think it took root. And years later, I got my first electric guitar for my 15th birthday. Started playing in basement bands, playing community centers, playing the classic rock of the era, things like Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, playing kegger parties at VFW halls. Do they still do that? I think that we probably because of that they probably outlawed it. But yeah, those were my early influences in music. If we fast forward to my mid-20s, by then I had been playing music a lot, even played it full-time for a few years in my early 20s. But along the way, I had just a personal interest in writing, in the written word. I don't know why. I never wrote for the school paper, never took a journalism class. But I just had this interest in writing, and for some crazy reason, when I was about 26, I decided to start publishing my own music newspaper here in St. Louis. Didn't have any experience, your common sense would say, why even try this? Very primitive, kind of slow, rocky start, but I learned along the way. And the publication was called Spotlight Magazine, and for 10 years, for a full decade, it was kind of like the local voice of the music scene in St. Louis, and it was a great experience where I not only learned about editing and writing and the whole printing process and all that, but I also learned about media, and I sort of became the cheerleader for the local music scene. Only luckily I didn't have to wear the cheerleader outfits. They tried to do that once, but I talked them out of it. But yeah, and that was just a great ride for 10 years. It's tough to do a local publication. Most of them last maybe 2-3 years tops, but I did it for a full decade for some crazy reason.